It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
We all seem to have that inner critic inside our heads. I have a committee, the itty-bitty shitty committee. You know what I mean, that nagging voice, or voices in my case, that knocks us down and drags us down the road of self-sabotage and self-neglect. A strong, positive sense of self-esteem is your first step to anything you wish to accomplish. Discover who you truly are, that gorgeous, talented, fabulous woman who deserves recognition and unconditional love. You know the most beautiful thing any woman can wear is confidence. Here on Confidence in Bloom with the Divas That Care Network, I, Tina Solatini, speak with women living in their own self-confidence about who they truly are, how they found themselves, and how they care for themselves. Today, Sheila Danko is my guest. The dynamic force of nature, that is Sheila Danko, embodies the ideal entrepreneur of today. As the founder and CEO of 3 diversified businesses, each with its own subsequent stream of passive income, she is the epitome of success. But her status as such was surprisingly hard won until she learned the secrets of navigating high-pressure stress without ending up another burnt-out casualty of the rat race. Her experiences were a catalyst for positive change, redirecting her life journey down a much more empowered path. Now, as an expert neurolinguistics programming master practitioner and certified high-performance health coach, this enterprising thought leader and sought-after speaker is essentially a leading-edge lifestylist, eager to share her winning strategy, ready to create the lasting change that's fundamental to living that ideal life you've imagined. Sheila Danko is your solution. Welcome, Sheila.
Hi, welcome. I'm so excited to be on the call today, Tina.
Thank you. Me too. I hope I said your name properly, the last name.
Danko. Sheila Danko.
Danko. I am so sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
I've read your bio a few times, and I'm like, I'm sure that's right. I'm so sorry. So tell me not exactly, but neurolinguistics programming, or NLP as the coaching world knows it. What is that exactly?
Well, that's a great question, Tina. So think of our brains as a computer. And my background years ago was computer programming, so I really connected well with this metaphor. But think of our brains as a very sophisticated computer, and and so we have everything in our brains. We have our conscious brains that we think, and then we have our unconscious, which runs our whole body, our whole physiology, and it stores everything that's ever happened to us. Every event is stored in our body, in the unconscious. And neurolinguistic programming helps people reprogram, because we're running on programs. Like, basically, we run on programs. They're called habits. And how our habits are, they're created by our events in our life. So if we want to change our outcome, we need to change our programming. And so what I do is I help people through a variety of NLP techniques and patterns change the programming at that very deep unconscious level to help them create a different life and create different outcomes. So it's like, I think so. Neuro-linguistic programming. So think of changing the neurons with linguistics at that programming kind of level. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does that require like therapy or anything like that?
Well, NLP, there's a lot of different aspects to NLP, and I have, all the different flavors of NLP training, which includes hypnosis. In fact, one of the things I like doing most is hypnotherapy, and particularly timeline. Because I find I work with a lot of high performers within the business world, within the particular real estate world, because I'm also a real estate investor, and I've been in this business of real estate in different aspects, all different aspects of real estate for a long time. So I can relate to, what they're going through, their emotional blocks, their fears, anxieties. But so I'm working with a lot of people who are really, top notch and who really want to succeed, but yet something keeps holding them back. And often it is some of their past programming at those very informative years between 0 and 5 up to 8 years old. Things happen to our life, and as children, we process things differently because we have, a different we have less experience. So what I love doing is that I love helping people go back in time with hypnosis and timeline therapy and address the events that may be blocking their success now. I'll just give you one example. I worked with one guy who was in the real estate world for quite a long time, and he was doing super well, but he didn't hit that really the level he wanted to. And after one coaching session, we identified this feeling of undeservingness. Even though consciously he knew he deserved it, but that deep unconscious level, he just didn't think he deserved success. So after having a conversation with him, it actually dated back to an event that happened to him at a very young and formative age. He was probably around 3 years old. And there was an incident with his father, and he was, his father was doing some woodworking, and he came along as a little boy and stuck his finger in some sort of, saw and cut the tip off, and his father freaked out and blamed him for the event instead of taking responsibility as a father. So what had happened from that event, it set him up for this feeling of undeservingness. Dad doesn't love me, it's all my fault. And that was sabotaging his success as an adult. So with a couple therapy sessions with timeline therapy and hypnosis, we were able to rectify that, and now he's an absolute rock star in the real estate world.
Oh, that's amazing. I've always been intrigued by how the brain works and how we create, the habits and the thoughts that we do. And in the last, maybe 2 years, just by speaking with other coaches, it's amazing the things that we can do to learn the process our brain makes to create our habits and our thoughts. I find it so amazing. I maybe should have been like a psychologist or something.
Yeah, I have always been fascinated with this. Well, I wouldn't say always, but I have most of my adult life been really fascinated with how to become a peak performer, how to have a balanced life, how to have it all really in this balance. And, it starts with our thoughts, and it really is our thoughts. Our thoughts create feelings. And when we have strong emotional feelings towards something, that will create actions. And those actions, repeated often enough, will create habits. And our life habits will then create our outcomes and the results of our life. So it really starts with those thoughts. But even deeper than that, when you understand NLP, before the thoughts, it starts with our past programming. And that's where the power of NLP comes into play. So hypnosis is one of the areas. There's a lot of other new techniques and styles that we help people get into that high performance state, to help them get into a more positive state. And it's all about state management. And we do some easy exercises to help people understand this because, you've probably had those days. You wake up in the morning, you stub your toe, then it puts you in a bad mood, and then you put a hole in your pantyhose, and then the kids are crying and you can't get them out the door, and you forgot the lunches, and the day just spirals downward, right? And that's
right.
Our state, yeah. And we've all had those days. It's like, you just want to go back to bed and start the day over. Well, instead of going back to bed and starting the day over, we can change our state. We can take that, yes, you jammed your toe and it hurts like hell, but you could actually consciously change your state, and that's one of the things I teach, is how to quickly change it from this negative state into a positive state. And it starts with your breathing and your physiology and just some quick things that you can do. So NLP is a very broad field of study. And what I love about what I do is I actually have practical practical examples and techniques, tips, tricks, and hacks, as I call it, for people to use on a daily basis to help them.
Oh, that's awesome. And do you have that like in an ebook?
No, but that's a brilliant idea. No, I don't. I don't. I share a lot of it. Like actually on my Instagram site, you'll see a lot of pictures of myself, like really cool pictures with a lot of my personal sayings. And I think by looking at my Instagram, you kind of get a feel of a lot of the my quotes that would indicate, and then the descriptions of, how does that impact us. So, for example, what you focus on grows, and this is so important. So I'll teach people, okay, what you really focus on grows, so what do you really want? And then keep that, how do you keep that centered in your mind? So I'll give them a few techniques of, giving yourself a high five in the morning. And I think I've been doing it, but I love how Mel Robbins does it. If you've read any of her books, you look at yourself in the mirror, you give yourself a high five. It sounds corny, but it works, and you give yourself basically a pep talk and say, high five to you, and you're amazing. And you basically say the affirmations. Now, the NLP part, a lot of people may say affirmations, but it's really important. I teach people that you have to see, hear, and feel all, it's, you want to really embody it. So when you look in the mirror, Tina, you say, high five to you, girl, you're amazing. So basically you're seeing yourself, you're verbalizing it, so you're hearing yourself. But to take it up the next notch, put your hand on your heart so that you can feel the vibrational energy to bring up your vibration and really integrate this feeling at that energetic level, at the cellular level.
Oh, that's cool. It makes sense, though, right? Because if you're saying it, like if someone else says it to you, right, you're looking at them and they say it to you, then you get that feeling. You get that, yeah, I am amazing, right? So when you look at yourself in the mirror, it should work. It should be even more powerful.
Yes. So if you take that up to the next level, then you talk about your goals. Like let's say I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire investor. I'm a millionaire, whatever. I am a rock star. I'm earning the trip. My new car is on the way, or whatever your goals are. These are your affirmations at this point. So you build your self-esteem up. You make yourself feel good, and then you really focus on, okay, what do you really want? So you send that out into the universe. So there's a couple other things I recommend people do. Is it's like if you don't know your destination, any road will take you there. So it's clearly identifying your destination of where you want to go, and then laying out the path to get there. So it starts with a decision. So my life really changed with a big decision many, many years ago.
That's a perfect segue into your story. Because I want to hear your story.
Okay. How did I get to where I am now, and where was I before? I'm happy to share it and with your listeners. And a lot of the listeners can probably relate to this. Many, many, many years ago, when I was 32 years old, I was living a very different life. I was the working mom. I was, living the corporate rat race. I had a full-time career in the computer industry. I clawed my way up that corporate ladder, and I was managing multi-million-dollar conversion projects for the second largest computer company in the world. But they were floundering and downsizing, and I was in this state of constant fear, Tina, that I was going to be the next one on the chopping block. And how was I going to support my growing family? I had two beautiful little girls at the time, and preschoolers, and I thought, how am I going to support them if I lose my job? And with this stress, it was actually a Monday morning, believe it or not, and I had just returned from another business trip. I was traveling all the time, practically living out of a suitcase, and I was away from my two little girls. And that morning, I remember, Tina, I was so tired. I was just beyond tired. I was exhausted, and I got up and I dragged myself to work. I wasn't feeling great, and this tightness in my chest was there, and I ignored it, like we do, like us working moms. We just got to suck it up and keep going, and I ignored that feeling until the tightness grew to such a degree. It was like these sharp shooting pains all along the left side of my chest, and I had a hard time breathing. And at that point, I thought, you know what, am I having a heart attack? Like, I'm only 32. Could I be having a heart attack? And I was pretty freaked out at this stage. So I actually drove myself to the hospital. Probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but I drove myself to the emergency, and they took me in right away, and they put me in an examination room, and they put the EKG, things on me, and the electrodes, and they looked at the information, and they said, hey, Sheila, good news is you're not having a heart attack. I'm saying, oh, thank God. But then they said, but we think you have a blood embolism in your lungs. And then they left the room. And then I was laying there, like, with this news, and I'm laying there, like, completely alone, scared, like, just terrified, because I thought, wow, like, what does that mean? Does that mean I could stroke or really have a heart attack? And it was like, boom, that was my wake-up call. That was the turning point. We have those wake-up calls in our life, and that was it. Up until this point, I was probably ignoring those the whispers of that I needed to make change. I needed to take care of myself. And us kind of working moms, type A behavior, just keep going, and you think you could do it all, right? You could be. And then I realized, look, I'm not Superwoman. I'm stressed out. I'm burnt out. I'm exhausted. I'm living in daily fear of losing my job, and I'm killing myself in the process. And I really decided that I must start taking care of my health, and I needed an alternative stream of income because I knew I was burning out at 32. How in the world would I keep this up? And making that decision, Tina, was so liberating, because I just made the decision at that point that my life was going to change, because I saw the two clear paths. The path I was heading down, and that wasn't the one I wanted to continue. And then I saw another path, a path that maybe was less certain at the time, but I just had to trust my intuition that it would unfold the way it should. And I just made that decision, and that was the turning point of creating a different life for me.
Wow. And you were young, right? I mean,
I was young.
It feels like that's a young age to be burned out that way. Although, I mean, let's face it, running around with 2 preschoolers is stressful enough, right? And then to throw in a job, a high-stress job, yeah, I could see that. So now you have created a mantra, balanced life means happy life. How do you define that now? I mean, obviously, that's what came from, your burnt out episode there. How do you define that, and how do you create that in someone's life?
Well, that's a great question, because a lot of us are out of balance. Our life is out of balance. Now, you could be out of balance a little while you're maybe going for a goal, but majority of the time, our life should be balanced. So what does that mean? Well, I have this philosophy that it's like a harmonic life is like a balanced wheel. Like, if all areas of our life are balanced, are about the same length. You think of the spokes on a wheel. If you think of a wheel, an old-fashioned wheel maybe found on a wagon, an old chuck wagon or something. There's spokes of the wheel, and if every spoke is the same length, the wheel's going to spin very fast, which would mean, having that harmonic life, achieving what you really want to achieve. So what are the areas? Like, first of all, my life, and I really see these as like 7 spokes too. And I've some people see 6 and others more, but I relate to and teach 7. So first of all, fun. My life was not a lot of fun. It was all work and no play at that point. So fun was missing. The other F of the spoke is fitness. Fitness/health. I wasn't taking care of myself. I thought I was invincible, and I wasn't really looking after my fitness and health. The third area is kind of my finances. I was working like crazy, but spending like crazy. I wasn't really, really savvy with my finances. The fourth area is like family. I was giving, all my full time to my job and career, and only, the leftover time to my family. So I felt constantly guilty because I just wasn't spending enough time with the kids. And the fifth area was my field or career. And I mean, that was getting all my time, really all my focus. And so that scope was way too long and the others were way too short. And the sixth area is faith, with faith, spiritualism. I was making some time, but probably really not enough to really fuel my inner spiritual needs or my faith. And the seventh area is friends, and that fits in well with fun. Like if you're all work, no play, and even if you're just dealing, spend time with your family, but if you're not kind of having friends in your life and having fun, you're not going to be fulfilled. So, and what happened is that I made a conscious decision that I had to start, first of all, looking after my fitness and health. That was the first area. And once I got that in line, then I had more energy to have more fun and spend more time with my family and cut back on my career a little, making my time less hours but more productive hours. And I actually did a career change too. And then making still time for, if I had the energy, had more time for my friends. So I didn't know how at the time, but what I teach people is to consciously sit down. It always works great at the beginning of the year, but it could be any time, So maybe at the beginning of January, sit down and actually look at the past year, rate where you are out of 10 in all those 7 areas. With 0 meaning completely unhappy, with a 10 meaning optimal, where you are rating your past year, and where would you like to be in a year, and then consciously say, okay, what are my 3 goals for each of the areas? What can I do in each of these areas to bring up that score? And then you put a plan in place. You kind of boil it down 3 to each area, and then you even boil it down to even more. And then you come down to like a couple, one key goal in every area. And then from there you say, okay, what is the most important thing? What is the catalyst that I can change now to that's going to change all the rest? And it takes some planning, but by planning and putting the plans in place, it really does help versus just kind of going on automatic, and that's what I was living my life. I was just pushing it and going, living day to day, but not really planning my long term what I wanted. So
go ahead.
So it's a lot of people understand it, this is what they have to do, a year in review and sit down planning, but a lot of people just don't make the time. So what I do as part of the NLP coaching is we actually do something similar to this, what I just described. We actually focus on an area, and we do a deep dive in that area, what's important, and what's important in that, and what's important in that, and what's important. And we do a deep dive to get to that deep unconscious level of why those things are important. And from there, we'll help them put a plan in place. And then by doing the morning high fives and continue to focus on it, you're really changing your thought. You're changing the programming that changes the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, the habits, and the outcomes.
I love that. So I've done the life wheel, the wheel of life, whatever anyone wants to call it. I've done that in many different groups that I've belonged to over the years. And I think the way you've broken it down, it feels more specific, right? It's more like fun. I mean, that can be anything, right? That's not necessarily any one thing. And friends, to me, friends, they're there to have fun with, but they're also there as your support system, right? Yeah. It's not always, well, let's go for a drink. It's a lot of times it's like, you know what, I really need to vent right now. Do you mind just listening to me for an hour, right? So I think, I like how you break it all down. And I like that it's all F. But I do wonder,
Mm-hmm.
do you work with mainly women or men that are like in their 30s, like when you hit your burnout stage, or do you work with kind of any age group depending on where they're at in their life?
I work with any age group, but that's a really interesting question. I never really stopped and thought about what age group do I work with. Majority of the people who I do work with are probably in their 30s and 40s. Mm-hmm. There are some people who are in their 50s, but majority of people are in that 30, 40, early 50 age bracket. Now, I do work with a lot of particularly women, menopausal women who are, I would say 50 plus in the health area, because what I specialize in is I have developed a program called Get Healthy, and it's about, because a lot of people look at me and they say, oh my God, Sheila, you're 60 years old and you have all this energy and vitality and you look great and you're doing this and you're doing that and you got 2 cottages and you got 3 kids and you're helping them, and like, how do you do it all? So I said, the first thing is, what I first focused on is that, the second spoke of the wheel, which is my fitness and health. And so I really focus on that group that are 50 plus women who are perimenopausal and menopausal, who their body's changing and they're feeling like the body's betraying them, and they just don't know what to do, and what they did 10 years ago isn't working, and how can they do that, and how can they get that the whole mind body health. It's help them with their with their mindset, get their mind in the right location, and then physically, what are they eating, how are they exercising, as well as like we work with hypnosis, and we work with a lot of different, my group has a lot of different coaches of different, we will do something like NLP, which is neurolinguistic programming, EFT, emotional freedom technique. We'll work with hypnosis. We'll work with all these. So it's the whole mind, body, spirit integration to help them become the best version of them with the focus on health.
I love that. Because you're right. I mean, our body changes when we hit that perimenopause change, and what we used to do, when we were in our 20s and 30s and even in our 40s, it's not working today, right? It's like, okay, I'm still getting this, my belly's growing and I'm doing everything that I've known to do to get rid of it in the past, and it's not working. So, yeah, so this helps you, like your, like the NLP changes the, that what I used to do thought, right?
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that, that clarifies that. I love that. That's an awesome, because I know there's lots of women my age right now that they're starting to realize that, whatever I do, it's not working.
Right.
So that,
we've had terrific results. I ran our Get Healthy spring program and our summer program. We just wrapped it up. And, there was one woman in her 60s who she just had the belly bloat. She just didn't know what to do, couldn't do it, just was so frustrated, with so no energy. Like, she just didn't have the energy to get up and do her hobbies and play with her grandkids. And, she just wanted to sort of lay on the couch and watch Netflix. And once we started her on the program, the turnaround was so rapid. Like, within 4 weeks, she lost 7 inches in her belly. The belly bloat was gone. 7 inches in 4 weeks. She was just blown away by it, and how her energy levels came back. And now, after it's been 3 months, she's lost 27 pounds. She's hit her goal weight. She's taken pictures, and her stomach is completely flat. She's looking so, fit and healthy. And she said her energy is fantastic. Like, she's back to her hobbies. She's back to looking after her grandkids. It's just like, she says, like, my life is back. I have this new lease on life. And she's just so forever grateful for all the coaching and the mentoring and the support. And, so I love working with that group. So if for any of your listeners, so if they're feeling that way, that they're frustrated, the body's betraying them, they don't know what to do, they're having the belly bloat, they're getting lethargic, they're just not feeling energetic, they're kind of losing their zest for life, their joints ache, they're not, they're constipated, they're like, everything that seems to be going wrong. we can help them. I definitely can help them with my Get Healthy program because I've helped thousands of people.
I love that. So you said that you have other coaches in your program. What kind of coaching do you offer then with them?
Yeah. Well, it's just for the listeners, just to let them know, I have a variety of different businesses. I actually have like 5 different, passive streams of income. So when I say I coach, young entrepreneurs, that's one specific area that I just do by myself. When I talk about my Get Healthy program for women who are perimenopausal and menopausal, I have assembled a team of coaches. So generally, we have 5 coaches, counting myself, that we work with. And they change up slightly, but I have someone, like I said, I have someone, her name is Janine. She's an emotional freedom technique master practitioner, Reiki master as well. So she works on releasing the emotional connection to habits and food. So like cravings, some people who the cravings are so excessive. Let's say, I'll give you an example. The first time we did this with Janine, I love microwave popcorn, or I did love microwave popcorn. So what we did is, we brought in all our favorite snacks, the things that we just absolutely, know that aren't maybe the best for us. There could be chips, it could be chocolate, it could be wine, but we want to break that connection, that emotional connection. So I brought the popcorn, smelled it. Oh, it smelled so great. My mouth was watering. I couldn't wait to dive in to eat it. And then we did the emotional freedom technique, which is a tapping of the meridians of where the nerve endings are. So it's like reprogramming. It's another way to reprogram your system. And once we finished the tapping, I took a smell of the popcorn, and Tina, all I could smell was rancid butter. And it was just disgusting. And I didn't eat microwave popcorn for years and years and years after, because I just lost the craving. It tasted different. The smell was different, and that's how you can rapidly change your programming, you see. So that's one of the coaches. So I don't know if your listeners are familiar with EFT, but it's a pretty cool technique that you can get rapid results. So that's one of the persons. Another person I have basically a part of my team is, her name's Brooke, and she's an RTT specialist. That it's basically, she specializes in hypnosis for rapid change. I have another person, Heather, who specializes in the gut-brain connection. She's actually a neuroscientist, and she has a whole program if people want to do a deep dive in gut health. I have someone else that I teamed up with that specializes in liver and gallbladder cleanses. I have someone else who helps detox the spirit, spiritually detox. And I have another person, Tracy, who's a resiliency coach, who again looks at, okay, these habits that we're so chained to, how do you break these habits? And it isn't willpower alone. And she's from the farming community, and so am I. So mine. So we have a thing, like you get on the wagon and then you fall off the wagon. Now you fell off the wagon, you get back on. How do you get back on? Like, you can't just stay on the wagon with willpower alone. Like, what are some of the tools and techniques that we can use to create these permanent new lifestyle changes? And I always say my Get Healthy program isn't a diet. It's not diet at all. It's because a diet, you go on a diet, you go off a diet, right? You lose the weight, you gain the weight back. We talk about having a healthy lifestyle, and the focus is on health and wellness. And because when I was lying in that hospital bed many, many, many years ago, I made that decision that I must start looking after my health. And it always reminds me of when I'm traveling on an airplane and the oxygen masks come down, and they always say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first and then your child beside you. Well, what I was doing many years ago, I was putting the oxygen mask on my kids and my husband and everyone else, but not myself. And so I thought, you know what, I have to put it on me. If I don't take care of me, I can't take care of anyone else. And that, Tina, started me on this a different trajectory of health and wellness. And I really started studying health and wellness. How can I become healthier? And so I started these different daily practices for years, eating better. I found a high-quality, amazing supplement that really turned my health around. So supplementation, mindset, gratitude, and all these other things, exercise, the different types of exercise. So I became a student of that for my own health, and that's how this Get Healthy program evolved into helping others. And I've helped thousands of people with it.
I love that. That's awesome. I think, we all have, I always say, we all know how to diet. We all know how to lose weight, right? It's fairly simple, right? Eat less, move more, right? But there's so much more involved that we've learned now, there's how we hold on to emotions, we hold on to habits and mindsets and, beliefs, right? And if we don't break those beliefs, that weight loss will never, ever be permanent.
Right.
Right. And that's basically what you do with your Get Healthy program, right? It's not just weight loss. It's anything that we do in our lifestyle. I always say diet is only what we eat, right? To go on a diet, you're just changing your food, right?
Right.
But in order for us to become healthy or more healthy, we need to change our lifestyle. Some just a little bit, some extreme.
Yes. And if you take that even a next step, Tina, and I like the path of your thought process here, is you need to change your identity. So it's changing who you identify as being, right? It's who our being is. It's like changing your identity from I'm a coffee drinker to I'm a green tea drinker. Until you change your identity at that very deep unconscious level, you're always going to go back to those old habits. Yeah,
that's true. Now that you say that, at first I was like, what do you mean change my identity? But you're right. I'm still Tina, but I no longer drink coffee. I now drink herbal tea, or I now move, whereas I never used to. Whatever I'm changing. I like that.
Right. Yeah, so it's seeing yourself as that healthy person, that healthy, vibrant person. And if you see yourself and identify with you as that vibrant, healthy person, then you will become that vibrant. It's like be, do, and have. Who do you want to be and identify with? Then what are you going to do? You're going to change your doing, and you're going to change your having because of it.
Right. I love that. And then that brings you back to what you said about Mel Robbins and, doing your affirmations in the mirror, giving yourself a high five, right? Today, Tina, you're going to be great. You're going to have a great day because you're going to eat healthy. You're going to get some exercise. You're going to connect with your friends and your family. It's going to be an excellent day, right? I mean, that's what we're working on, right? That's the change that you're creating.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. And it's easy. As a coach, it's easy to tell your clients, okay, this is, obviously step by step, but this is what you're going to do today, or this is what you're going to start telling yourself. But living it's so much more difficult than it sounds, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you had struggles with that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You take a step forward and then one step back, and then you take two steps forward and one step back. Well, absolutely, and so that's where that coaching and the support and all this deep mindset work helps. It definitely helps. And I run my programs 4 times a year so that, if someone does it the first time, they come back the second time, and again, it's reiterating. It's just, helping them reach those new habits, because it takes about 15 months to make a permanent lifestyle change. So that's why I encourage people to come through the program as many times as they want. And every time that we run through it, they're going to learn something different. There's going to be slightly different coaches, and it's really going to be a very rich program for them.
Wow. And so I'm assuming there's some kind of membership fee to join this program.
Yep, very little. It's a very modest amount. Really, all it is they're buying products to help them. They're buying nutritional supplements. They're purchasing products that are going to help them with their digest and detox. So there are products. So they get a big box of products. That's what they need to purchase to help them, with their health. And all the other coaching, and all these other layers of weekly support, Facebook support, free cookbooks and recipes and smoothies and all, there's so much rich support around it. It's free. So they get thousands and thousands of dollars of free support and prizes and fun for a very minimal fee. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so you started doing this like in your 30s, or is that more recent?
Well, I started taking care of myself in my 30s. I started, helping other people with their health in my 30s. But the program, the Get Healthy program that it was back then to now has really evolved, because as I've grown, the program's grown. As I identified areas of need that people needed, people can drink it a day and lose weight. That's not going to make it permanent. People can take some supplements. It's going to help them. But how do they really help with this lifestyle change to be permanent so that they can be healthy and vibrant and live in this harmonic life? That's where the program's evolved to now. Mm-hmm. So I would say in this form of the program, I've been running it for a few years now.
I love that. I do love it. I think it's a great concept, and I think it's, we talked about, dieting is no longer, the diet culture is not good for us, and it's about lifestyle change. We've been hearing that for years now. And I think programs like this that you've created, it's sort of like a confirmation to the world that you can't do it alone, number one. And you need to know more about you. You need to be more, you have to have a stronger relationship with yourself in order for you to change anything in your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And so because we've people often know what they need to do, they still don't do it. So this is where the program addresses why they aren't doing it and what help do they need to do it so that they can become this, the person who they really want to be, the person who this vibrant, beautiful beings that we are. We really are magnificent, and to understand and appreciate our magnificence and to really, have that joyous life.
I love that. I really love that. I bet you see huge changes. You see women that have no self-esteem, low confidence, and as they grow through your program, they realize that they can make better choices to make a better lifestyle. Mm-hmm. You probably see their confidence grow, and you must feel so proud of your own input into that for them.
Absolutely. I'm a proud mother as I see this. I always think of it like a metaphor. I see them as this, the caterpillar that goes into this cocoon and emerges as these beautiful butterflies.
Oh, it's like watching your kids grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every parent makes mistakes, right? There's no perfect parents. But at the same time, when you see that your kids are, adults now, and they're behaving and acting and thinking the way you kind of hoped they would when you gave birth to them, it makes you feel so proud. So it's the same thing for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Sheila.
My pleasure.
I
certainly hope the listeners have, I hope they picked up a lot of tips, tricks, and hacks, lots of ideas. I hope they took a lot of notes.
Yes, I hope so too. I really hope so too. I hope that they comment and let us know what they learned, what they, would have liked to know more. Again, thank you so much for coming and talking with me today, and maybe we'll get together in a year and talk about this again.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Absolutely love to. Thank you so much, Tina, for having me as your guest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Confidence in Bloom is a celebration of self-love, a confirmation that you're an amazing, desirable, brilliant, gorgeous, talented woman, even though you may not look like a screen star or a supermodel. The truth is, they don't even look like that. We offer unconditional love to our partners, our children, our extended family, even our pets. It's high time we got out of our own way and learned to unconditionally love ourselves. Chic definitely does come in every shape. So if you want something to believe in, start with yourself. If you'd like to be a guest here on Confidence in Bloom and chat with me, contact me through Instagram at infobloomstyling or by email at tina@infobloomstyling.com or through the Divas That Care website.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.